What is up, hooligans? Happy freedom. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Hooligans, where we try to make the news suck a little less. Please take a second to hit that like button. Let me know how you're doing in the chat. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me and hear me clearly. As you can see, the press briefing is about to start. First time in a week or so. Let's hope there's a lot of questions about the Orange Eagle. Peter Ducey's there. It's going to be a good Monday. It's going to be a good Monday.
Welcome back, everybody.
Prostitute.
Okay, a couple things. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This Saturday, our nation marked the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, a seminal moment in our history and in our work towards equal opportunity for all Americans. Sadly, this day of remembrance ended with yet more American communities wounded by an act of gun violence, including communities in Boston, Chicago, and Joppa. At least one shooting this weekend was reportedly fueled by hate and carried out with 2 firearms. On Saturday in Jacksonville, Florida, a white gunman went on a shooting rampage at a store near historically black university and killed 3 black individuals. Even as we continue searching for answers, we must say clearly and forcefully that white supremacy has no place in America. As the president said in his statement yesterday, we must refuse to live in a country where black families going to the store or black students going to school live in fear of being gunned down because of the color of their skin. Hate must have no safe harbor. Silence is complicity, and we must not remain silent. And we must continue to do all we can to keep guns out of dangerous hands. The President and the First Lady are praying for the victims and their families, and this entire administration grieves with the people of Jacksonville. Earlier today, the President spoke to Governor DeSantis and told him he quickly approved the emergency declaration for Florida. The President also expressed the administration's full commitment and support to Florida. At the President's direction, FEMA has deployed 2 incident management teams to Tallahassee and has one in Atlanta ready to pivot as needed. The President continues to be briefed on the current trajectory of Tropical Storm Idalia, and the team here will continue to update him as the system progresses. Unfortunately, as you all know, Floridians are no strangers to these types of storms. It's important that people prepare today, get supplies, so they get food, water, and charge your electronic devices. People should visit ready.gov for tips on how to prepare. Lastly, if you are in the storm's path, please listen to your local and state officials for guidance on evacuations or any updates. As we just announced moments ago, President Biden will travel to Hanoi, Vietnam on September 10th, following his participation in the G20 summit in New Delhi. While in Hanoi, President Biden will meet with key leaders to discuss ways to deepen the cooperation between the United States and Vietnam. The leaders will explore opportunities to promote the growth of technology-focused and innovation-driven Vietnamese economy, expand our people-to-people ties through education, exchanges, and workforce development programs, combat climate change, and increase peace, prosperity, and stability in the region. And on Monday, September 11th, the President, the Vice President, First Lady, and Second Gentleman will mark the 22nd anniversary of the terror attacks on September 11th, 2001. The President will travel from Hanoi to Alaska to participate in a memorial ceremony with members of the military and their families. The Vice President and the Second Gentleman will participate in a commemoration ceremony at the National at the National September 11th Memorial and Museum in New York City, and the First Lady will lay a wreath at the National 9/11 Pentagon Memorial to honor the lives lost on September 11th. Today, the President and the First Lady visited students at Elliott Hine Middle School in Washington, D.C. to mark the start of the school year. This visit kicks off a number of back-to-school activities for the First Lady this week, as well as Secretary of Education Cardona will soon hit the road for a back-to-school bus tour. When President Biden took office, less than half of the kindergarten to 12 students were going to school in person. Thanks to his swift actions and historic investment, every school in America is open safely for in-person instruction. The administration remains committed to supporting schools and the students they serve. And today we are joined by the senior advisor and president to the president and director of the Office of Public Engagements, Stephen Benjamin, who is here to discuss the present March on Washington commemoration engagements today. And the floor is yours, Mayor, if you're ready. This is also his first time in the briefing room, so welcome. Yeah, come on up. Come on up.
That means be nice to me.
Be nice to him, yes.
So today, the President and Vice President Harris will commemorate the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. As you may have seen, the Washington Post op-ed penned by the President to commemorate the sacred day and outline how the Biden-Harris administration is working to fulfill Dr. King's dream of redeeming the promissory note of our nation. The President and Vice President will meet privately with organizers of the march, community leaders, and members of the King family shortly, in just about a half hour. This meeting will take place exactly 60 days after the initial Oval Office meeting between President Kennedy and Dr. King on the morning of the original March on Washington. Later this evening, President Biden will host a reception as well and provide remarks to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the founding of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have right now.
Okay.
60 years today. 1963 was a pivotal year in civil rights. Medgar Evers was shot and killed in June of 63.
What the
The March on Washington in August of 63. 2 weeks later, 4 little girls were killed in a Baptist church. That was 60 years ago. Today, we are...
Right, why are you bringing it up now?
happened in Jacksonville. We've got laws in the books, policies, etc. What can this administration do to quell the hate that is on the rise that the FBI has quantified?
Sure.
She looks like she's got goggles on.
The administration has, since day one, since the President signed his first executive order on making sure that everything we've done is focused on equity in this administration, and all of his work since then, including obviously another executive order signed on the anniversary of Bloody Sunday to make sure that the sacred right to the franchise is protected. It is sacrosanct in everything this administration does. Obviously, there's a full investigation going on in Jacksonville right now. We're going to let law enforcement authorities do their job. But everything in this administration is focused on making sure that we try to appeal to the better angels against, it seems, a rising tide of not only racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, violent attacks against our LGBT, our brothers and sisters, and even significant crimes against our AA and HPI community. That's why it's so important that we remain vigilant every single day from all aspects of the administration, a whole of government approach, recognizing that there's work yet to be done. It's important to note that while we're not where we want to be, we're certainly not where we used to be. The progress that has been made, not only in the Biden-Harris administration, which has had a number of historic firsts, I might add, but over the last 60 years, this country has come a long way. And we have to, I believe, people...
It feels like it's been in the wrong direction, though.
That progress, but realize that we are on the front line.
50 years ago, we knew what a woman was.
A lot of isms, and we've got to continue to push back together. That's embedded in the President's piece in the Washington Post. I encourage everyone to lean into it.
Follow up on that if I could, real quick. There's a lot of racial rhetoric going on in this political campaigning atmosphere.
It says the only person in the room that always brings race up.
Am I making a reach in this question? Will there be a reach across the aisle to say enough is enough, we've got to stop this, because a lot of this, people are saying, are stemming from a lot of this rhetoric.
Sure, I'd give a brief response to that. The president has endeavored, and I watch it in every engagement I have with him and every engagement he has with the public, to recognize the fact that he's the president of all of the United States of America. He speaks to people on both sides of the line, urban, rural, and
Boston. I bet her breath smells like shit.
brings people together. That will continue to be his position.
I was sitting here thinking, at this point, she might as well wear a whole helmet. She's got the goggles on, the compliance clause, so the government knows she loves them. Might as well just wear the helmet and the dunce cap on top of it.
That we do see, April. Thank you.
Different.
Thanks, Mayor. Does the White House see any connection with the changes that the Florida governor has made in teaching about African American history to the kind of violence that we saw in Jacksonville?
The president has been very clear, again, in the piece he penned this morning, and I think...
Yeah, the president, he's super clear. He's a clear guy, especially when he's laying on the beach, practically transparent.
And maybe tell Mobley, of course, recognizing, commemorating the sad event of his murder, but also recognizing the courage of his mother in making sure that she helped light the fuse that set in action significant events of the civil rights movement. That action, establishing these monuments in Mississippi and in Illinois, was meant to make sure people understand that we cannot rewrite American history, that we have to tell the good with the bad, and that is edifying to the soul of this country. And the president, since day one, you've heard him talk about his personal reaction to Charlottesville. Redeeming the soul of America is central to who Joe Biden is as a man and why he chose to run for president as a candidate. So I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that trying to rewrite American history is not only wrong, but it also encourages our children and those among us not to lean in to the beautiful and also painful past of what our history looks like, and encouraging people to move forward together.
Thank you for the question. Looking at the op-ed today, a lot of the achievements that are listed in here obviously resonate, but have to do with the economy, lowering unemployment, health insurance, investing in small businesses. I'm wondering if the administration still believes that those achievements will resonate when you still have hate crimes happening across America. You still have Supreme Court decisions that have obviously led to setbacks in some of the more sweeping proposals by this administration, such as student loan relief or even affirmative action, when many people still feel that their civil liberties are being infringed upon. Is the administration confident that some of these economic achievements will really resonate among Black Americans throughout?
Sure. Well, we certainly hope so. Not only in the context of electoral politics, but simply because it's the right thing to do. The president has been incredibly supportive of and hoping for passage of the John Lewis Act, encouraging we protect the sacred right to vote, and certainly even the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, to make sure, of course, we've led from the front as it relates to federal authorities and chokeholds and the like. But we'd like much more support from Congress in moving these things forward. It is a difficult environment to move forward some legislation, but every single thing that we can do by executive order the president has been leaning on. There are a lot of challenges that people face, but we certainly believe that part of Dr. King's message and all the other amazing organizers of the March on Washington focused on the economy and jobs and freedom. So these amazing investments that have been made in Black businesses and minority-owned businesses, small businesses across this country, making sure people have access to health care, more people insured now than ever, $35 insulin, making sure that people don't have to make decisions between poverty and getting the medicine that they need, clean water, removing lead pipes from communities all across this country. I do believe that when the rubber hits the road, people will pay more attention to these dramatic investments in their quality of life and listen more closely to these important issues. But that's politics. I want to make sure we stay closely adhered.
You're just saying a whole bunch of nothing.
Is the administration still on track to do that in the next decade?
As far as I understand.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the president said yesterday that he will speak to the people of Jacksonville. Does he have any plans to visit the city and to meet with folks? And has he spoken yet with any of the families of the victims of that shooting?
As of right now, the president has spoken to the mayor and to the sheriff. And obviously, as Corinne mentioned, he had a separate conversation with the governor today. As of right now, I don't think there are any travel plans, but obviously that is always subject to change.
Has he reached out to the families of the victims, or does he have any plans to speak?
As far as I know, I think that the victims are only identified as of this morning. I don't believe that, but I can't speak to it with any facts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, students are going back to school around this time of the year. The president has talked about book bans. A lot of these bans are going into effect. Could you talk about what the White House, what the administration is doing to address the fact that, as you talked about earlier, parts of Black history, parts of American history are being impacted by these book bans in various states? Sure. No, it's so important. And purely, if some people, we come from a world where we know that even two people equally yoked can see the same thing very differently. Rewriting history is not necessarily one of those things. But if you do see these things philosophically differently, it's important to know, however, that our children, if we're going to compete on a global stage, must at least know their own history. You can't step into a job interview on one of the other continents and the people in that room know more about your history than you do. And I think purely as a matter of competition, not equity and common sense, it's important that children understand, again, the beauty of the greatest democratic nation in the history of the world, but also the challenges that brought us to this point. So I do know this is something that the president and vice president.
The book ban is really interesting because what made the loudest splash was DeSantis taking all the Rainbow Crew books out of schools, and they called that the book ban. But now they're banning Fahrenheit 451 and other books like that, books that we read in school. They're getting rid of those those books, and they're calling that the book ban. So when they talk about book bans, we all think they're getting rid of rainbow books, but they're getting rid of a whole ton of books.
We're celebrating here in DC this week. I don't know if you've seen that, but there have been a lot of posts on social media.
I've not seen that, and I feel better that I haven't seen that. The reality is that the sacrifices made by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and not just him and A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin and Whitney Young and others, ought never be minimized. And because they not only represent the leaders of that past. I sat with Clarence Jones this weekend and Ambassador Andrew Young and heard some of these stories firsthand. But they represent the sacrifices of so many people we don't know. People who labored in anonymity, who gave everything, who marched and cried and died so that this nation might live up to its better angels, might live up to its promise. And I think it's so important that as we look backward, that we work to preserve the importance of that legacy, because it's going to quickly determine how we look forward and determine what America is going to be like, not 60 years ago, but 60 years from now. Thank you all so much. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Come back anytime.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
Please do come back.
Thank you.
Prostitute.
Thank you, Mayor. Please do come back.
60 years, let's do that.
Not sure the connection, but okay. Chris.
Hi, how are you? The President and the First Lady visited middle school today. Test scores for this age group are the lowest in decades, despite billions of dollars in investments from the administration. Is the White House's approach failing and not improving these test scores?
If anything, look, there's going to be a lot of more work to do, right? That is understandable. That the work doesn't end. Didn't end when the president was able to open up schools, as I mentioned at the top. Remember, when the president walked in, more than 50% of schools were shut down because of COVID, because the last administration didn't have a plan, didn't have a comprehensive plan to deal with COVID and what it was doing to our economy and what it was doing to our kids. And because the president put schools reopening and businesses reopening and making sure that people got shots in arms, made that a priority, we were able to open up.
She looks a little strung out.
Absolutely. As we've seen, the pandemic, COVID has had a devastating effect on our kids. And so, look, the president is committed to making sure that education for all of our children, regardless if you're in rural America or urban America, all across the communities, is a priority, and the students and the kids get what they need. and it's not just education, right? We talked about mental health, right? We talked about kids making sure that they're getting healthy lunches, right? That is something that this administration has provided. And so we've seen the data, we've seen the numbers. What it means to us is that more work needs to be done, and we're committed, and this president and this administration is committed to doing that work. Look, we're going to hear, as I mentioned, Secretary Cardona is going to go on a bus tour. He's going to go across the country as school is opening up. He's going to lay out what the Department of Education is doing to continue to improve our schools to make sure that students get the education and get the rightfully the education that they deserve. And so the work continues. I don't have a 10-step laid out for you, but I can say for sure that this president is committed, and you see that through the Secretary of Education, and of course, this is something that's incredibly important to the First Lady as well.
Also, a new AP poll asked Americans an open-ended question on their thoughts on the president, and the most common response has to do with his age, how old he is, and his oldest president in history. Does the White House have additional plans to demonstrate that he can continue to, do the job at his advanced age and kind of allay some of those concerns?
I mean, look, I appreciate the question. I get it often, as you know, what I would say, and I've said this many times, and many of my colleagues have said this, the president says this, if you watch him, if you've seen what he's done the last 2 years, this is a president has had a historic administration in just 2 years. If you look at
in the negative,
more than 13.5 million jobs that he's been able to create. If you look at how he's been able to turn the economy around so that it works for middle-class Americans. If you look at the Inflation Reduction Act and what it's going to do to really help Americans as relates to healthcare, as it relates to utility bills. If you think about the CHIPS and Science, I mean, this is a president who has taken historic actions, and not just with Democrats on the Hill, but in a bipartisan way. I just mentioned the CHIPS and Science Act, the PACT Act. In many ways, this president has been able to do things that is going to change how American families move forward, whether it is economy, whether it's health care, whether it is trying to make sure that they are able to give to their, do what they can for their family, for their kids. That is important, and so that's what we will happily to discuss as it relates to age, what the president has been able to do and how he's been able to deliver.
And the last question is the press pool spotted the president walking the Oval Office with his personal physician, Dr. O'Connor, a few minutes ago. Is there an appointment? Did he have a meeting about a health concern?
This is the first time I'm hearing of that. Clearly, I did not see that, so I can't speak to that. I just don't know. Okay.
Thank you, Corinne. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while. Welcome back.
It has, for a lot of us. Good to be here. It still has the new briefing room smell.
Oh, it does, like a new car.
Yeah. In the call he had with the governor of Florida,
look at Ducey. He's like, I hate being here.
Storm and the shooting in Jacksonville, any chance the president raised his concerns with the governor about the state's new slavery education standards?
So they kept it to what the readout was. Clearly, we always are very careful not to read out private conversation. They talked clearly about the president offering any assistance that the governor might need as we are talking about the Jacksonville shooting, as you all know, and also the storm Idalia that's headed to Florida. That is kind of that is clearly what's on everybody's mind as we see this potential Category 3 storm. And as a community is mourning, I don't have anything else to read out from that call, but clearly those are the two pertinent things at the moment that they were able to discuss. And the president wanted to make sure that that not just the governor, but the people of Florida knew and understood that this is the president, the federal government is with them through the different kind of events that they're dealing with at this time.
If need be, they'll get back on the phone together.
If need be, absolutely, if need be. And let's not forget the major declaration the president approved within hours, right? As I mentioned, as we are now watching this potential Category 3 hurricane that could hit Florida, which is important.
Two others, if I could. Now that we know that he's officially going to Vietnam, it raises a question we've sort of had throughout the year, and that is, are there still plans to somehow, someday soon meet with Chinese President Xi?
Well, I'm just going to go back to what the president said during his press conference at Camp David very recently. He spoke to this. Don't have anything else to add. He has been very clear that he is looking forward to having that discussion at some point. Just don't have anything to share at
The
this
White House
time.
would like to do that this year?
Just don't. I'm not going to put a timeline on it, but you know they've spoken multiple times in the past 2 years or more than 2 years of this president's tenure. I just don't have anything else to share.
And the House Speaker yesterday said moving towards impeachment now is, quote, a natural step forward and would be an opportunity for Congress to get all the information they need, for his words. What is the White House's response to the apparent march to impeachment by House Republicans, and does it make working with him this fall on matters of dollars and cents especially any more difficult?
So look, Ed, you know, I can't really speak to the House Republicans and what they're focusing on. They can speak to that. You've heard from Speaker McCarthy. Not going to dive into what's in his head or what they're thinking or what they want to do on the other side of Pennsylvania. The president is focused on what real Americans care about, the real priorities that Americans care about. I just talked about how the president and the first lady visited a middle school today, and one of the messages that he wanted to make sure that he highlighted is the importance of every child in America having access to quality education, public education, and also let's not forget what we're celebrating today, 60 years, or commemorating today. That's what the president's going to focus on. Later this week, he's going to focus on lowering health care costs, which is something that this administration has worked on the past 2 years. In response to Maui wildfires, you just asked me about his conversation with the governor of Florida and what they're dealing with, a very devastating shooting that we saw in the city of Jacksonville, and this hurricane that's about to potentially hit Florida. Those are the things that the president's going to focus on. Look,
What about Ohio? Is he ever going to Ohio?
with Speaker McCarthy, look, this is a president who wants to work in a bipartisan way, and he has been able to do that.
Yeah, that's why he's always bitching about ultra MAGA supporters. He's here for everybody.
Would continue to join him on doing that, and that's going to be his focus instead of more baseless political stunts. That's what they're focusing on.
Some of the frustration appears to be the inability to get information out of the State Department, the Homeland Security Department, other aspects of the government. Is there any validity to those criticisms in the view of the White House, or should the White House be perhaps urging departments to cooperate with ongoing investigations?
Look, we are always, of course, urge the different agencies and departments to work with Congress. Of course, that is something that we always urge, and I can't speak to what they're complaining about. What I can speak to is what the president is focused on, and again, we want to work in a bipartisan way with congressional Republicans. That's what we want to do. We want to get things done for the American people, issues that actually matter to them, not these political stunts that they're clearly focused on. Go ahead, Mayor.
3 U.S. Marines were killed in this Osprey crash in Australia during a training exercise. Has the president been briefed on any early read or early information about the potential cause of this? Any sense about whether it was, weather-related, mechanical?
So any specifics to what caused it and what was related to it, I would certainly refer you to the Department of Defense for any specific questions. Yesterday, the President extended his condolences to the families of the Marines who lost their lives in this horrific crash, as well as his prayers to those who also suffered injuries. Any additional information on the specifics of the crash or what caused the crash, I would have to refer you to the Department of Defense.
Does the president have any broader concerns that we are seeing, it seems, too many of these aviation incidents, these mishaps in the military? Does he feel there needs to be some sort of a reevaluation or reconsideration of training or focus on maintenance?
Look, the president, of course, when it comes to our military force, he's always going to be concerned. He's always going to want to make sure that they have everything that they need and, of course, that they're safe. Anything related to this, I don't want to get ahead of what the Department of Defense might be looking into, what might be causing this. I don't want to get ahead of them. So they would have to answer more specifically on those questions.
One additional question on the House Speaker. He's also said that he's likely to investigate the federal response to the deadly wildfires on Maui, saying he's very concerned about the response. what do you make of that, and does the White House stand by your response and your efforts in the aftermath
So a couple
of
of
this
things.
tragedy? Anything you would do differently?
No, I appreciate the question. A couple of things I want to say. Since the onset of the unprecedented tragedy that we saw in Maui, the president launched a whole of government approach. You've heard me say that. You've heard him say it directly. You also heard the FEMA administrator say this as well, in effort to support the residents who were affected by the communities. Let's not forget, they not only they lost so much. They lost historical land. They lost their community. And also, as soon as the governor in Hawaii, Josh Green, and he has said this himself, requested a major disaster declaration, the president signed it. And you've heard from the governor, you've heard from the two senators who have lifted up and said how quickly this president responded, the federal government responded. So I would just refer you to their own words. Last week, as you all saw, a week ago today, the president, the first lady, they met with survivors, they met with emergency responders and state and local and federal officials. They saw firsthand themselves the overwhelming destruction that caused the wildfires, and it was heartbreaking. And so what I can say here and now, and as the president has said, he is committed to delivering everything that he can to the people of Hawaii, what they need, and we will be with them as long as it takes for them to rebuild. The president has been very clear about that. The first lady clearly has supported that. The FEMA administrator has said that. I will say this. What is currently on the ground, the federal government has deployed more than 1,000 staff members on the ground, and the FEMA has already given nearly $15 million in assistance to families. And so, again, we will be there, the federal government will be there, certainly at the direction of the president, as long as it takes for this community to rebuild, and certainly our hearts are continue to be with the families and the people in Hawaii who have lost so much.
Closer to determining what brought down Prigozhin's plane?
So, look, a couple of things on that. I know that folks have had questions on Prigozhin. So we are increasingly confident that Prigozhin died in the plane crash that took place on August 23rd, this past Wednesday. I don't have any new assessment for you on this, so I'll just leave it there.
Secondly, the president said in Tahoe that he had tentatively decided to recommend everyone get the new vaccine. When is he going to decide finally?
So as I think you've heard from the FDA and CDC, they've made an announcement on the new vaccine. So certainly they said that there'll be an updated vaccine mid-September, I believe. So we know that, as you all know, vaccinations against COVID-19 remains the safest protection for avoiding hospitalization, long-term health outcomes, and death, which is why we are going to be encouraging Americans to stay up to date on their vaccines. I would refer you to DHS, as they have, I just mentioned, FDA and CDC mentioned that they'll have the new vaccines by mid-September.
Are they friend or foe?
We're about a month away from the government running out of money, potentially shutting down. What's the president's plan to avert a government shutdown?
So look, I'll defer to Congress on the government shutdown. There shouldn't be no reason, right, for Congress to shut down the government. None at all. None. They should fund vital government programs for the American people, and these critical needs we've requested emergency funding for. There should be none. And so that is for Congress to speak to. As you know, senior administration officials, including the OMB Director Shalonda Young and our Legislative Affairs shop, we have had numerous conversations with members of Congress. We'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to engage with them, and we'll continue to underscore the importance of delivering on these bipartisan priorities that was agreed upon, that the American people want to see. And so, look, that is for Congress to answer. There should not be a government shutdown. There shouldn't be.
Does the president support passing a short-term spending bill to keep the government funded, and does he have any plans to speak with the speaker about
So look, again, that's something that I'll defer to Congress on the length of potential continuing resolution. again, there should be no reason for a government shutdown. I don't have any conversation to read out or to predict for you that the president's going to have with the speaker. As I mentioned, the OMB director, Shalonda Young, has been in contact with members of Congress. So has his legislative affairs shop. They have continuous conversations about this, underscoring the importance of these vital programs that the American people need. And so they should uphold this bipartisan commitment. That's what the American people want to see.
And then as it relates to COVID vaccine funding, the president said that he had signed off on a proposal internally to present Congress with a request for additional funding. Do you have any additional details about the size of that funding request, what it would be used for, and what would the impact be if Congress does not provide that additional funding on Americans and their ability to get that vaccine?
So I don't have anything new to say or to add to what the president said.
Blink, 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 blink.
What I can say is that we are prepared for the fall. As the CDC and FDA mentioned, that we will have vaccines available by mid-September. We believe we are in the strongest position yet to fight COVID-19. A lot of that is because of this work that this president has done.
Oh, fuck you.
A couple weeks ago, some members of Congress, it was over 50 Republicans and Democrats, they sent a letter to the administration asking for help with H-1B workers and the backlog. In light of concerns about Canada recruiting H-1B holders from the United States, I wanted to ask, does the administration agree with these members of Congress that these workers, these H-1B workers, need more flexibility to do things like change jobs, travel abroad, for example?
So look, as we have said many times before, this is an outdated immigration system. We've asked Congress to update our woefully outdated immigration system. We've been very clear on that, including the temporary visa programs that haven't been updated in more than 2 decades. And so under current regulations, as you know, workers on certain temporary visas usually have 60 days to secure new employment, pursue a different visa.
That's right, Pumpkin. Do not comply. Plague 2.0 is on its way.
So Congress needs to do their job and pass legislation updating our immigration laws to reflect the needs of where we are currently in this 21st century economy. So look, the president, even on his first day, as we've said many times before, he put forth an immigration reform legislation because he took this very seriously.
You mean on the first day he signed a bunch of executive orders and a ton of people lost their jobs? That's all we remember.
Piece of legislation that he put forward on his day one, because this is such a broken system.
They're asking specifically, though, for executive action. Is the administration not willing to go that far?
We are saying that Congress needs to do their job. That's what we're saying. This has been 2 decades since this particular visa has been upgraded and updated. And so it's for Congress to act. That's what they need to do.
And can I ask you just briefly, can you talk about Thursday, the Philadelphia trip? What's the plan?
So I don't have anything to share on Thursday. We'll certainly have more to share in the coming day or two. Okay.
On China, there are a lot of different tension points, but one of them we've been reminded of, and that is the fact that China retains ownership of all the pandas at the zoos in the United States, including the Smithsonian National Zoo. And is there any chance the president is going to ask President Xi to let the pandas stay?
I think the panda is supposed to leave at the end of the year. Okay, so I don't have anything new to share, any update to share on the pandas timeline. But as soon as if we have anything to share, we certainly will share it.
Would the president share the concern of many Americans who love the pandas?
Well, we all love the panda. I just who have visited and seen this panda, but I don't have anything to share. I've missed you. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah? How's baby Kareem?
She's good. She
Oh, baby KJP.
very nice to her dad.
Oh, during your
Just
your
like
leave.
adult KJP.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
He named his daughter Kareen.
Question that you probably were not expecting.
Okay.
Does President Biden want to limit Americans to 2 beers a week?
Where is this coming from? Maybe I didn't miss you so much. Where's this coming from?
All right. Well, Dr. George Koob, who is the director of the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, says the U.S. may soon follow Canada and recommend just 2 beers a week. How do you guys think that's going to go?
Let me tell you what
You're gonna get Americans mad in the streets with that one.
in that question right there. I have no idea. I've not seen the data. I cannot speak to this. I will leave it to the experts and not weigh
So if
in.
the experts say 2 beers a week, that's okay with
I
President Biden?
I will leave it to the experts. I'm just not going to comment on that.
Okay, something else. The Secret Service is paying $16,000 a month now to stage near Hunter Biden in Malibu. Who's paying for that?
That's a question for the Secret Service.
Okay, Hunter
We are. What do you think?
to pay for his $15,800 a month rent in Malibu. How can you guarantee that people are not going to be buying this art to gain favor with the president?
That is a question for Hunter Biden and his representatives.
It's a
I
question
know.
of
I hear. I
ethics
hear.
at the White House. We know
I
that
hear
one of
your
the art
question.
buyers got a job from the Biden administration. Can you guarantee that there is no quid
I
pro
hear your
quo?
question. I'm not going to get involved in this. That is a question for Hunter Biden's representatives.
So, but we know that from a Hunter Biden associate now that he sold the appearance of access to then Vice President Biden. Are you confident that he has stopped doing that?
That is a question for Hunter Biden. And
If
his
somebody is
representatives.
selling the appearance of access
That
to the
is-
White House,
that
that is a
is-
question for the White House.
No, that is your I don't know how you're perceiving that.
Good luck spinning this.
Devin Archer, he said.
I am just not, Peter. I'm just not going to get into this. I'm just not.
So, this testimony, since the last time that I was in here, Devin Archer talks about how he and Hunter Biden tried to profit off the Biden brand. What is the Biden brand?
I'm not going to get into it from here. I'm not going to get into it from here. We're going to move on. Go ahead.
Thanks. I have a question.
Wow.
Happy first day of school.
Guess we won't see Peter for another month.
The message that the administration has for the millions of girls in Afghanistan who can't go to school because the Taliban won't let them.
So, look, the president has always been very clear about the importance of girls, not just here in America, but globally,
Bullshit.
being able to live for it.
All the girls he knows aren't even girls.
And so,
Try.
and we have been very clear in laying out our concerns, such as girls' education, with the Taliban. We have been consistent with that. We have been very clear of that. And so we also remain laser focused on trying to support and assist the Afghan people without bolstering the Taliban.
Is that what happened to Maui? They were laser focused.
That's something that the president's going to continue to be clear about, not just him, but his administration. And so that doesn't end today, and 2 years ago. That certainly will continue throughout his administration.
For the girls themselves, I guess.
Well, look, we have this is a president, this is an administration that certainly supports girls being educated. Again, not just here, but also in Afghanistan. We are going to make that very clear as we consistently assess our relationship and approach. Right.
God, she's crashing and burning so hard today.
Going to continue, and we're going to assist. We're going to assist the Afghan people as much as we can, right, without bolstering the.
How much more can you assist them? You gave them all kinds of military weapons and vehicles. This is your fault, KJP. This is your fault and your administration that you're hooked up with. This is your guys' fault.
The statement you put out doesn't mention human rights or the fact that the chairman is the leader of a socialist communist country that's been backsliding on human rights. Is that going to be part of the conversations?
And you've heard us say this many times. You've heard it from our national security advisor. You've heard it from the president. You've heard it from many members of this administration that this is a president that never shies away on bringing up human rights with any leader. And so I'm not going to get ahead of the agenda. I'm not going to get ahead of a conversation, but certainly this is not something that the president, when it comes to human rights, it's not something that the president shies away from, and he certainly brings that up.
Screen. The president was asked yesterday if he'd speak to Governor DeSantis and responded by saying that he'd speak directly to the people of Jacksonville. Did he just mean at the top of his remarks later this afternoon, or is he planning to travel to Jacksonville?
So, as the mayor just stated, we're not tracking certainly any travel to Jacksonville. The president, you saw the president's statement. You heard it from me. You heard it from the mayor. Our hearts going out to the people in Jacksonville. Certainly, we're going to do everything that we can. The president spoke to the sheriff. He spoke to the mayor.
She looks like she stuffed her bra with Walmart bags.
Politico reported that part of what would be announced, and I know you gave kind of a long readout at the top, was a strategic partnership agreement on AI and semiconductors. Are you expecting them to sign that?
So we'll have more to share on that trip, on the agenda, deliverables, what we're expecting the conversation to look like and to be. I just don't want to get ahead of that at this time.
Last one, while we're gone, there's a report that you guys were considering a meeting with MBS around the G20. They'll obviously be attending, I think, for the first time as a sort of the head of state designate, and it comes as energy prices have been high this summer and headed into next summer, where there's a lot of anticipation that they could remain there. So I'm wondering if that's something that's actively in the works, or.
So I don't have anything to share on any bilateral meetings that the president might have on at the G20. If we were to have any, certainly we will lay that out for all of you or announce that to all of you.
Any sort of top line stuff about what you're hoping to accomplish at the G20?
The G20 more broadly. So he's going to reaffirm, the president will reaffirm the U.S. commitment to the G20 as the premier forum of economic cooperation globally. He'll discuss a range of joint efforts to tackle global issues, from the clean energy transition and combating climate change to mitigating the economic and social impacts of Russia's war in Ukraine. Obviously, that will be a big part of the conversation, to increasing the capacity of the multilateral development banks, including the World Bank, to better fight poverty and take on the significant transnational challenges that are afflicting countries across the world. So we have a packed agenda, as you can imagine, and we'll have more to share in the coming days. And again, any bilateral or meetings that could potentially happen around the G20, we certainly will share that with all of you.
Thanks, Green. I wanted to get your response to some comments from Senator Sanders over the weekend. He said the president has every right to be proud of his record, but he seemed to suggest that the president should spend less time touting his record and Bidenomics and more time speaking to the anxieties of Americans who are still struggling in the current economy. He said Democrats up and down the line are going to have to be much clearer to the American people as to what they stand for. I wonder if you have any reaction to that.
So look, first, we're very thankful to Senator Sanders for certainly being partners with us in passing some of the key pillars of Bidenomics, right? When you think about the key pieces of legislation, historical pieces of legislation that had led to unemployment being under 4%, when it has led to millions of jobs being created, when it leads to middle class really rebuilding that middle class, and not leaving anyone behind. Certainly, Senator Sanders has been a key partner, and we really appreciate the efforts that his leadership, I should say, in Congress in making that happen. And so, look, we agree with the senator, right? When it comes to what we're doing is just the beginning, right? This is part of trying to make sure that we do build a middle class, that we build an economy from the bottom up, middle out. That is incredibly important to this president. That's why he has said that the last 2 years. It's not just the last 2 years. He doesn't believe in trickle-down economics. He knows that doesn't work. And so when it comes to the president going out there and talking to the American people directly to let them know what this administration has been able to do with the help of senators like Sanders, I think it's important. We think it's important for them to hear directly from this administration. And so, look, we think there's more work to do. We're going to hear from this president this week about how he's going to continue to lower costs, right? Lower healthcare costs for Americans, something that the president, has been leading on, and his administration has continuously put out ways to do that. Inflation Reduction Act, how it's going to be able to help Americans lower costs, the healthcare costs, how it's going to be able to make sure seniors are not paying more than $35 on insulin. All of those things are key. They're critical. They're important. And so the work continues. The work continues. And so we agree with the senator. Yes, the work continues. And we're going to, hopefully we can continue to work together with him on getting that done, getting more done for the American people and American families. Okay, Karen.
To go back to the president's comments from Friday about the COVID funding request, when he said he was asking, or he had signed off on a proposal to present to Congress a request for additional funding for a new vaccine, why was that not included in the $40 billion supplemental funding request to Congress that was sent out this month?
I don't have anything else to share on the president's comments at this time, so I want to be very clear at that. Just don't have anything else more to add. What I can say is that we are prepared for the fall. We believe that we're prepared for the fall. We believe that we're in a better position than we've ever been to combat COVID-19. And that's because of the work that the president has done. You heard from FDA, you heard from CDC, who've said that there's going to be a new vaccine that's going to be available mid-September. And look, because of the work that this administration has done with the leadership of this president, we have been able to put together a comprehensive way to deal with this pandemic, to deal with COVID-19. And we have put forth multiple tools to do that. And the vaccine clearly is one of that. As it relates to what the president said, I just don't have anything to add at this time.
And on that new vaccine that's going to be available in mid-September, the CDC data says that only 56 million Americans, 17% of the population, received the updated shot last year. What type of public messaging campaign or effort will the administration and the White House be doing starting in mid-September to get people to get that shot, to get more people than last year to get that shot?
As you know, Karen, this is an issue that you have followed very closely for the past 2 years, and you have known that this administration, when it comes to informing the American people about these vaccines, about the different tools that this president and this administration has put forward, we have really put informing Americans as a priority. And so we'll continue to do that. We know that COVID-19 vaccinations are the safest protection for avoiding hospitalization, long-term health outcomes, and death. And that is why we are going to continue to encourage Americans to stay up to date on their vaccines. And so you'll hear more from us on that. And as you know, that is something when it comes to informing Americans, American families about about the vaccine, we certainly have been really something that we put at the forefront as we move forward with our comprehensive approach to dealing with this pandemic. I would also refer you to the HHS on anything more specifics on this new vaccine. Go ahead, Nadia.
Thank you. Question on foreign policy. Israel Foreign Minister revealed that he met with his Libyan counterpart, which led to her firing and demonstrations in protest. Does this complicate the administration efforts in expanding on the Abraham Accords and kill any chance of normalization now between Israel and Libya? It was reported that the administration is angry at the Israeli leak of the story.
So on that particular question, I would have to refer you to the Libyan Government of National Unity and the Government of Israel. That's where I would have to refer you on that particular question. I just don't have anything else to share on that.
Mr. Brown went to Libya and he met with the Prime Minister, and he encouraged him, apparently, to approach Israel for this potential relationship. So the administration has an interest in this.
No, I understand the question. On any conversation or meeting, I would have to refer you to the respective governments.
Given what you've said so far about the president's preparing for COVID and being ready for any sort of fall surge, and what the president said today at the middle school, does the administration believe that all of the resources are in place, that they're adequate, should there be a case uptick that maybe is concerning to some districts and they maybe consider whether or not to leave kids in the classroom?
So a couple of things. I've talked about the historic progress that our administration has made in the ability to manage COVID-19, so that it's no longer a meaningful disruption to the way that we move in our day-to-day life, right? So that is something that the president has taken seriously. We believe we are in the strongest position yet to deal with COVID-19, as I've said multiple times at this point. Anything that we might see in the fall or in the winter. And that's because safe and updated vaccines that will be available in mid-September, widely available at-home COVID tests, right? I talked about the different tools that this administration has been able to put forward, widely available effective treatments, which can reduce the risk of severe illness, hospitalization, and death. And we are also going to encourage Americans to get their updated COVID-19 vaccine in addition to their annual flu shot. Let's not forget that is important for Americans to get, and an RSV immunization for people over 60 and for.
We haven't heard any of this crap since like February, maybe even longer. Why all of a sudden is this coming back?
While the CDC is reporting an increase,
is it because the Republican debate? Because it's about to be voting season? Is that why?
We are in a good position, in the strongest position that we have been in the past 3 years or so to deal with COVID-19. There's going to be an updated.
The best way to deal with it is to ignore it.
We're going to continue to encourage Americans to get their updated vaccine, to stay updated on their vaccines more broadly, but also to make sure they get the RSV and also to make sure that they're getting the flu shot.
Well, I guess specifically, though, is there a message to school districts as kids are back in school now? And, it's not just COVID. As you mentioned, there are a lot of things that can make kids, sick this time of year.
I mean, that's why I mentioned the RSV. That's why I mentioned the flu, right? All of those things are important for Americans to stay updated on. So as kids return to school, to your point, CDC continues to recommend that people are up to date, again, on their COVID-19 vaccines. The agency has also laid out a number of steps people can take to keep themselves and their loved ones safe. If folks go to cdc.gov, it's important. If Americans or their families across the country have any concerns, any questions, they should go to cdc.gov, and they'll lay out ways to protect their loved ones, to protect their kids. Decisions is at the district level, as you all know, when it comes to any decisions on what tools they're going to use, whether it's masking or whatever, however they're going to move forward. That is something that's decided on a local level. But again, the CDC has laid out ways for for schools and families to move forward if they have concerns. But again, we are going to continue to encourage folks to be updated on their vaccine, the RSV, let's not forget, make sure they get that, and also the flu vaccine. All of those things are incredibly important as we head into the fall and winter months to keep our loved ones safe.
Thanks, Green. So on oil, the administration is engaging now with dictator Nicolas Maduro to increase oil production. Why not, through regulation, show encouragement here in the U.S. for oil production?
So a couple of things. So the U.S. is going to continue to work to support the restoration of democracy and the rule of law in Venezuela. That is something that we're going to continue to do, and has been our longstanding position. Should Venezuela take concrete actions toward restoring democracy, leading to free and fair elections, we are prepared to provide corresponding sanctions relief as well. At this time, Venezuela has not taken the necessary steps, and our sanctions remain in effect, so nothing has changed there.
So new leases were issued for the Gulf of Mexico for drilling, yet in that they removed 6 million acres of land to do that. Plus, there were additional restrictions placed on ships, specifically for oil and natural gas, to deliver those products. Why continue to constrict the U.S. energy industry?
Meaning in Venezuela specifically?
No, I'm talking about Gulf of Mexico. Now I'm talking about oil. Second question about.
Okay.
So there was new leases were offered for the Gulf of Mexico, but in those new leases, the administration has reduced the amount of acreage by 6 million acres to do that. And in addition, they restricted ships taking the oil from the rigs and natural gas from the rigs to the shore. So again, why continue to add restrictions on that industry?
So we don't believe we add restrictions on that industries. I want to look specifically on what you lay out the restrictions were and what was provided on the Gulf of Mexico. So I want to get back to my team and make sure that what you laid out is exactly how it was announced, and we'll get back to you on that particular questions. But that is not something that we believe that we are doing.
One more on UAW. Is the president going to get involved? Has he been talking with UAW at all?
Well, you heard from the president yesterday. He spoke to this when he was asked about the UAW. Clearly, he has been. This is somebody who. This is a president that believes in investing in America and has ensured, right, when it comes to the future of automaking, it will be built here in America and by American workers. He's been very clear about this. This is a president that has overseen historic increases in labor union participation during his time in office, and unions themselves have labeled him, as you hear us say this all the time, the most pro-union president. And so, look, we're not going to read out every conversation that this president has with parties in these negotiations, but the White House remains in close touch, as we have been in many of these other discussions with the UAW and the big three automakers. Look, the president believes in collective bargaining, as you hear him and you hear us say all the time, and it has worked. We've seen it worked in the past 2 years. Okay. Oh yeah, we have to gather for the next event. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. KJP crashing and burning today. Well, hooligans, we got a couple more things to cover before we wrap things up. I'll let you guys know right now, if you're not watching on Rumble or jeffmaclive.com, you should be, because after all that plague talk and the jabby jab talk and stuff, there's a very good chance we're going to catch a strike over on YouTube, and they will not let me go live for the next 2 weeks. Now, that's not as big and scary as it used to be, because I've already been demonetized, so they can't really do much more than prevent me from going live over there. So it's just one more reason why you guys should be over on Rumble or jeffmaclive.com, where we can't be censored or banned. Fuck YouTube. Okay, so we will be starting off with a video titled "Nearly 5,000 Pilots Have Forged Medical Records in Order to Fly," says the FAA. Apparently they didn't want to lose their pilot's license or their ability to be up in the sky, so they've been lying on their medical records, I suppose. Hold on, we need another one. Whew, gotta clear that KJP voice out of my head. Then we have a video titled "Florida Police Say a Man Who Killed three black people at a Dollar General was motivated by hate." Then we're going to continue on with a video related to the same subject titled "Diary of a Madman, Police on Jacksonville Gunman's Manifesto." Both those videos are pretty short, just kind of summarizing what had happened in Florida. And then we'll be wrapping things up with a video titled "AI Tool May Help Stroke Survivors Speak Again." It sounds good, but it looks crazy. The way that they have it all connected, I think they have a better chance waiting for Elon Musk's Neuralink than whatever this is. It looks like a VR headset gear setup. It looks crazy. Hopefully it's helping people, but we'll see. So we're going to start with this first video titled "Nearly 5,000 Pilots Forge Medical Records to Fly," says the FAA. It's a tough one. God, I can't believe all that plague talk and all that other nonsense that's been going on. Don't forget, go get you an Orange Eagle t-shirt. Or a Screaming Eagle t-shirt. You can find the link in the description. You can find all the links in the description if you would like to support the live or go check out some cool merch and stuff. You can find all of that stuff listed below, no matter what platform you're on. Alright, hooligans, let's go ahead and get this started.
Federal authorities are investigating after thousands of pilots may have lied about their medical records.
Yeah, this doesn't look good, and the Washington Post reports that nearly 5,000 pilots, all of whom are military veterans, allegedly hid serious health conditions that could have made them unfit to fly. Dre Clark is live in New York with more from this really bombshell report. Hey, Dre.
Yeah, good morning, guys. You know, when you fly, you place your trust into the hands of the flight crew, believing they will get you to your destination safely between takeoff and touchdown. But now the Washington Post investigation has revealed that close to 5,000 pilots, many of them working for major airlines, have been flying and lying about their mental and physical health conditions. And the Post maintains the FAA has known about this for years, but only recently has it taken action.
The pilots under investigation are military veterans who are accused of omitting or submitting incorrect and false information about medical conditions to the Federal Aviation Administration, conditions that could negatively impact their qualifications for flying. The FAA says after working with the Veterans Administration, it determined that just under 4,800 of the more than 600,000 certified pilots in the country are in question. An anonymous U.S. official familiar with the investigation telling the Washington Post about 600 of the pilots under investigation are licensed to fly for passenger airlines.
Like any other high-performing industry and occupation, pilots are a lot of times very concerned about seeking medical care when they need it because they are worried that it could reflect on something like a medical certification, which they need for their livelihood.
The Post investigation uncovering the pilots told the FAA they're healthy enough to fly, yet they failed to report, as required by law, that they were also collecting veterans' benefits for disabilities that could bar them from the cockpit.
And of those 600, the majority were cleared by the FAA to continue flying. So there's only, I think, a small 60 of them that actually had ramifications that way.
The FAA saying those 60 pilots posed a clear danger to aviation safety and they should cease flying while their records are under review. The majority of remaining pilots with open cases can continue flying while the FAA looks into their paperwork. The federal agency also telling News Nation the FAA has been transparent with the public on our work. Finally, any veteran who may have a disqualifying condition has been told they cannot fly. There are many disabilities that a pilot could have and still be able to fly. Commercial pilots are given extensive routine medical checks, examining their eyesight, hearing, blood pressure, urine testing, cognitive skills, and signs of any mental disorders. But the examinations are allegedly quick, 5 or 10 minutes in some cases, and pilots are allowed to self-report their medical history in paperwork.
So ever since the process began, the FAA has worked off of you report, we expect you to honestly report your history. So this is nothing new that we're finding that people didn't report their history.
And that doctor you just heard from says he doesn't want to stigmatize these veteran pilots because he says it happens far more often on the civilian side, that is pilots hiding their medical history. He says one way of stopping this from happening is to give those medical examiners full access to both medical and medication records and not just rely solely on the honesty of those pilots. Marquis.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation.
I don't know. I have no interest in falling out of the sky. None at all. So I try not to fly on planes. I prefer to drive. I like the trip. Being on planes make me deathly ill. It's like even going to Florida from here is only like 2-3 hours or something, but by the time I get off the plane, I'm on a stretcher, they got an IV, I'm throwing up. I'm not doing well. I can't fly on planes. Now half the pilots out there lying about their medical condition. It's no good. It's no good. I don't know, I seen someone in the chat saying it's better than being jabbed up. I think so. Just have him keel over mid-flight? I don't know. I don't know about all that. It seems like a tough situation. Tough situation. You have to have a special skill set to be a pilot, and then life happens. Develop a condition or something, and now you will no longer be able to fly. It's probably hard to give up, I could imagine. I don't know. I'm going to read through chat really quick, see what you hooligans think, and then we will be moving forward to the next video. Starstone long drives are fun with the right crowd. Even with an okay crowd, bonds are made. Airplanes make people pissed for no reason. Yeah, I've never had a terrible experience on a plane, but I've never had a fun experience on a plane. It's not fun to go through the airport and getting checked and get your bags checked or lost. All that stuff is just, I don't know. It's not fun to me. I'd rather be in a car, cruising around, seeing cool stuff, stopping at cool gas stations, having hilarious incidents, things like that. Lori, great. My daughter flies out tomorrow to avoid hurricanes. Well, it can't be that bad because they didn't know until they investigated it, until they audited what was going on, and then they realized how many pilots' medical records were inaccurate. It wasn't due to incompetence or anything like that. At least that's what they didn't mention on the news article there. So it'll probably be okay. It'll probably be okay. They just didn't realize that the potential opportunity of failure due to medical ability, they didn't realize that the potential was that high because people were lying about their medical conditions. Madeline, do people still have to take their shoes off? It's been a long time since I've been in a airport. I'm trying to think the last time I was in one. It was probably 6-7 years ago, so I don't even know what it's like now. They probably have to do the 2-fingered thing. Just check your oil real quick, make sure you're good to go. God only knows. God only knows. Maybe this round they'll bring on the jab. They won't let you fly unless you're jabbed up. God only knows. DeRosa, a few months ago, they only wanted jabbed pilots. Yeah, exactly. They think that's better somehow. Somehow that's better. Just have them randomly keel over while flying a plane. No big deal. No big deal. What's up, Salty Ragu? Happy freedom. Sam, I'm gonna send you a jump ticket. No, I gotta come to where you are. We gotta do that. Next time I get in a plane, that's probably what it's gonna be. Me and Sam, we're gonna be out there skydiving, doing crazy stuff. He's a pro, if you don't know. Should definitely be a part of jeffmaclive.com. Sam's always posting his jump videos and stuff, and they're awesome. They're awesome. And what about them reporting if they've had the jab or not, and if they have heart conditions? Yeah, well, I'm sure they know if they have the jab or not, because they were trying to mandate it. See, and that's what I was mentioning earlier while the press briefing was going on. It's like, we ain't heard about any of this for almost a year, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, better go get a jab. Scary plague. Big scary plague. I don't know, the best way to not catch the plague is just ignore it. Just ignore it. I'm telling you, there's going to be I feel that there's like a 70% chance that we will not be live tomorrow on YouTube because they're going to strike me for what the press briefing said. I guarantee it. So all of you hooligans, you should be just heading over to jeffmaclive.com or Rumble, Odyssey. Well, Odyssey's still down. We're working on that. It was live earlier. Something happened. I got to talk with their tech team. We're supposed to be running some test lives. But anywhere other than YouTube, you should just be getting used to not watching on YouTube. Because it won't be long and they'll just turn the lights out over on that channel and probably remove me completely. Hair Juicer, skydiving is the best. You've been skydiving? I've never gone. I've always wanted to go. Holy. Thank you so much, Mr. Frizzy Fro, for the $500 donation over on Rumble. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. More than I can put into words. I'm blown away right now. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Where's the cat? I gotta squeeze the cat. Thank you so much, Mr. Frizzy Fro. My goodness. My goodness. Trying to read through the chat. I'm shaking now. Rappy, I'm with you. I've only been on a plane once when I went to visit my cousin when she lived in Seattle. Every other time I've traveled by car. Yeah, it's not fun being on a plane. It's not fun to be on a plane. Look at everybody in the chat. Yeah, Mr. Frizzy Fro, your support is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Flipping through the chat. Thank you so much, Cassandra, for continuing the membership program over on Kick. You're officially a hooligan. And I appreciate you, Cassandra. Thank you. Alright, we're going to move on to this next video here. It's titled, Florida Police Say Man Who Killed 3 Black People at a Dollar General Was Motivated by Hate. These next 2 videos are tied together, same subject, but they're not very long. I mean, we already heard most of it from the press briefing. This is more just a detailed summary of what exactly happened in Florida. Let's get her started, hooligans.
Breaking news from Florida. Police saying a mass shooting there this afternoon was racially motivated. Several people are dead in the incident happening at a Dollar General store in Jacksonville. Authorities say the shooter left 3 different manifestos detailing his hate towards black people. We're told the gunman killed 3 victims, all of them African American, before turning the gun on himself.
Well, that's the first one. I had to flip the screen. I forgot they were showing the pew-pews, and, you know, YouTube's still watching, so I can't show the pew-pews on the live. It's not about the pew-pews. It's about what happened. What had happened was... Alright, and then I believe this is the Sheriff's Department. Diary of a Madman. Police on Jacksonville Gunman Manifesto. It's weird that we're getting this manifesto, but we're still not getting the one from the shooting at the religious school or whatever it was. You know, the big crazy one. Never got the manifesto on that, but we're getting this one. Okay.
The Office of the Medical Examiner has positively identified the shooter as Ryan Christopher Palmetter. The shooter was 21 years of age when he committed yesterday's atrocities. He lived with his parents in Orange Park in Clay County, Florida. To our knowledge, he had no criminal arrest history. And as I said yesterday, he did have a Baker Act petition from 2017. This petition occurred in Clay County, and it appears that the shooter was held for 72 hours under the Baker Act provisions and then released without further involuntary commitment. They were 100% legal, and as I stand here with you today, they were legally possessed. There was nothing indicating, again, like I said, it appears that the dealers that sold those guns to him did it legally. They did what they were supposed to have done. At 1:08 and 13 seconds, the suspect's on video in the parking lot in front of the store, shooting into a black Kia and murders the first victim, Ms. Angela Carr. The suspect enters a Dollar General store and engages the second victim. I saw a young 19-year-old victim, Anolt Laguerre. At 1:13 and 10 seconds, the suspect shoots a third victim, Gerald Gallion. At 1:18, the suspect texts his father and says, "Use a screwdriver to get into my room." The father enters the room and finds a last will and testament of the suspect along with a suicide note on his laptop. At 1:19 and 21 seconds, the officers enter the building and begin to clear. Just 11 minutes after this whole ordeal began. Patrol clearing the hallway when an officer hears a single gunshot. We believe that's when he killed himself. The manifesto is quite frankly, the diary of a madman. He was just completely irrational. But what is irrational thoughts? He knew what he was doing. He was 100% lucid. He knew what he was doing. And again, it's disappointing that anyone would go to these lengths to hurt someone else.
Well, 21-year-old, definitely misguided. It's a crazy world we live in right now. I'm not surprised at all that there's 21-year-olds out there doing crazy things off crazy beliefs. It's a generation that's growing up without being told. Don't believe the internet. Do not give your personal information to the internet. Do not believe what you see on the internet. It's weird. You know, you always grew up being told, don't believe what you see on TV. There's no need to be scared of scary movies. It's not real. Somehow along the way, we failed to do that on the internet for the younger younger Americans out there. And so they hear all that propaganda and they absorb all of it, and they combine that with the things they see and hear, special treatment being given to special groups of individuals, even highlighted by the White House. And they see all of this and they lose their marbles, and they don't even know that they're losing their marbles. Like, we live in a really weird time right now where everything is a psyop, everything is propaganda, and it feels like no one's helping the younger people dig through the nonsense. You know, rise above it. Don't believe it. Don't get all bent out of shape. You hear somebody saying something you don't agree with, or you see people getting special treatment that they probably don't deserve. Don't get involved. If you can't handle it, don't get involved. It's like there's no one looking out for younger people, and then they go and do dumb stuff like this. And it's because they believe it. They believe the propaganda. They think it's for real. And that hate that they're talking about, I see a lot of people feeling that way. And it's a lot of it is because of the special treatment. They're like, oh, well, these people are criminals, and they get a slap on the wrist, and at the same time they're demonizing these groups of people based on their skin color. I have the same skin color. That's like I'm being demonized for something I didn't do. And then that creates hate in your heart. And being a young person, 21 is not a kid, but their brain definitely isn't developed. And I feel like you don't know shit until you're at least 25. And even then, you don't know nothing. You're just at the beginning of understanding that this is all life is. When you're a kid, you have all this aspirations of things to come. But once you hit 25, you realize there ain't much. Just eating, sleeping, shitting, making money. Get a little action every once in a while, and one day you're going to kick the bucket. Try not to go to jail. That's all. That's life. Until you die from 25 on, that's all you got. That's the whole song and dance right there. You can add a little twist to it if you want to. But that's the whole song and dance, and I don't know. He didn't make it that far. 21 years old, let that hate absorb him. Propaganda get to him. Made bad choices. At the same time, this could just totally be a psyop. This could be good for publicity. Look how they talked about it at the White House. Oh, individual, blah, blah, white supreme pizza reigning in the streets. Could be a psyop. Could not even be what we think it is. It's hard to tell. Thank you so much, Undercrafter, for the $20 donation on Rumble. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for all the support. Undercrafter says, got tipped 40 this morning. I'll split it with you. Happy freedom, hooligans. I really appreciate that, Undercrafter. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Starstone, when's Jeff Mac going to be the actual news? Hooligan news. I worry about professionalizing what I do much more than I already have. I don't want people to think this is mainstream media news. That's not what this is. I'm only so professional. There's a lot of non-professional. I'm rough around the edges if you guys haven't figured that out. I don't know. Screaming Eagle jail ain't so bad. I don't know. I haven't been incarcerated since all the flamboyant stuff has been going on. I don't know if I want to be locked away in there. I feel like it's either you're going to go to jail and be stuck with a whole bunch of people that are shapeshifters and weirdos and believe weird things and fall for the propaganda, and you'll be stuck in the circus with the clowns till they release you from jail. Or that's where all the normal people are going to be. You're going to get in there and they're going to be like, yo, you see the shapeshifters? They don't make no sense. Yo, you get the jab? I ain't never getting the jab. Yo, you ever caught the plague? I ain't never caught the plague. And be like, yo, this is where all this is where the normal people went? They're all in jail? That would make a lot of sense, but I don't know. I don't want to be stuck in jail. I never wanted to be stuck in jail, but especially the way times are right now, no, don't lock me in a cement room. I'll lose my marbles. Madeline, there was 4 older white people shot last weekend. Not one mainstream media report. It didn't fit the narrative. It's true. Anytime something happens that doesn't look like white supreme pizza reigning in the streets, they don't talk about it. They want you to think that's all that's going on. That's why during the White House press briefing, they were talking about it as if it was elusive. Did you see the white supreme pizza out there? It's hard to catch. It's hard to find it. It's hard to stop it. It's so elusive, it's fox-like. Like, come on, man. It's hard to find because it ain't happening. That's why. They act like it's a rainbow or like Bigfoot. Like, oh, we got this blurry image of white supreme pizza. We know it's out there. Like, I don't know. It's so stupid. They want it so bad. And we're getting into voting season. So it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. There'll be more psyops, more incidents for the White House to talk about, and go and convince all the smooth brains out there this is what you should think and feel and do and say and blah 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 blah. The white supreme pizza, all the plagues coming on, go and get jabbed up. Just wait for that to start. Today I feel like is kicking off the whole jab season stuff, because now the White House has told everyone to be scared again. We're going to start seeing individuals feel bigger and better than everyone who didn't go get the jab. We already seen it, and it really died down, and everyone forgot about it. Everyone forgot in New York you had to be jabbed up to go into a restaurant or to use a taxi cab. They wouldn't let you unless you had your little passport saying you caught the jab and you got the updated version and this, that, and the other. They were doing the same thing in Seattle. There was people all over the country saying, I'm better than you because I went and got the jab and you didn't. You're a little dirty so-and-so, and we don't want you near our family and this, that, and the other because you didn't go and get the jab. Then it all quietly died down and people stopped barking so loud about it and act like that didn't even happen. Like people weren't really treating each other that way. And here we are. We're about to walk right through the doorway again, right back into the same room we were in. People thinking they got jab supremacy and all this other stuff. We're right there. We're right there. But I think this round is going to go different. I don't think this is going to be like last time. I don't think they're going to put out a bunch of mandates and we're all going to be like, yeah, let's do that. Like, no, I don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of resistance, and I think the White House is going to have a lot to say about it. They're going to be talking about the unjabbed and the ultra MAGA supporters who refuse to comply with the government's dictatorship orders, fail to comply with mandates as if they were laws. And again, this could be a strategic move to bring back the emergency order, because when they had the emergency order going federally, whatever they said, we had to do. We basically lost our rights while the emergency order was intact. And that was the whole point of the convoy, was to get them to drop the emergency order so everything could go back to normal, which the convoy didn't really achieve that. They definitely spread awareness and raised awareness on what was going on, but they didn't really achieve that. Either way, it wasn't even that long ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, they dropped the Emergency Act. Maybe they're trying to get it back. Maybe that's what this is. I don't know. I'm going to read through chat really quick, and then we're going to move forward to what I believe is the last video here. Yep, we got one more. I'm going to read through chat, read your guys' thoughts, and then we'll move forward. Matt, the election infection. God, that's right on the money there. You're not wrong. That's what it is. God, we might have to put that on a t-shirt. I just can't think of a way to get an angle on it. The election infection. That's something. Hold on. What does it say? Matt, my brother's mother-in-law accused him of trying to off her for not taking the jab. He hasn't spoken to her in 3 years. Yeah. Yep. That kind of division lasts, and it's not good. You want to have grace in your heart, and you don't want to hold on to bad things like that. It weighs you down, and it's unnecessary. But I have a grandmother who's very pretentious. She thinks she's better than everybody, and she always has. And it's fine with me. I don't know any different. She's been that way the whole time I've been conscious. So I don't know any different. But when that whole jabby jab thing went by, I remember for Easter, she was sitting out in the yard by herself because she refused to be in the house with all of us heathens that did not go and get the jab, which was everybody but her. And so she sat out in the yard by herself and refused to participate in Easter with me and my sister and the family members I do speak to. And I remember her sitting out there with her nose in the air like she was so much better than us. I'm like, yeah, well, how do you like spending Easter alone while you drove all the way to someone's house? Like, you came to the event, but you decided to stay outside instead of participating with all of us. Well, then the next year, she's in the house with the rest of us. Even though nothing changed, she was hanging out with all of us. And it's very hard for me to let that go. It is very hard for me to let that go. I walk into the house and it's like, the party's here. And because I don't ever get to come around that much. And so when I go down there, I feel the same way, just as much as they do. I walk in the house and it's like, yeah, we're all together. Like, we used to have to live together and smell each other's shit and all of that. Like, welcome home. That's what it feels like. But it's hard for me to not say hi to everyone, and I don't want to say hi to her. I want her to feel that I don't agree with how she treated the rest of us back when that stuff was hot and on the market. You know, everybody was getting jabbed up or not getting jabbed up. I want her to know that, you know, impacted me, but it's not good. That's not a good thing to have, but I totally understand that. To be treated a certain way because you decided to make a choice about your body and have somebody treat you poorly because of it. It's hard to not react to it. It's hard to not be the bigger person. And that's been all over the Truth Social, the election infection. I like Truth Social, but I don't like all the bots over there. I wish they would do something about the bots. I get notifications for Truth Social saying, like, oh my god, just crazy stuff. It'd be like, Fauci was caught out in Hawaii with a minor doing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, what? And I click on it, and it goes to some nonsense. It goes to a website not related. It's some clickbait to get you to go check out their website. It's just bots. And so I have a hard time clicking on notifications for Truth Social now, just because there's so much false advertisement because they don't thoroughly clean out the bots. Kevin, next time we march on Ottawa, we won't be so nice, I think. Yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if there was another convoy. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And although the turnout wasn't what everybody wanted, I always enjoy watching people stand up for freedom, especially if they can do it in an organized way. I don't like chaos and stuff, like the way Antifa handled it. You know, when the protesters started, I think there was a lot of people who were on board with the protesters. But then as time went on and things started getting burned down and ignorance stood taller than the message itself, that's when everybody turned their back on the protesters. And they were like, nah. When you were fighting for rights, we were with you. We want to see people stand up for what's right. But when it just comes to, well, my skin color is this, so I need special treatment. And, you know, we're going to burn all your stuff down, but you need to look at us like heroes. Like, when that kind of stuff started happening, it was like, sorry, you lost our vote there. You blew it. You blew it. Astral Hammer, this crap drives me nuts. Yeah, I don't like it either. I was just talking with WMM about it because his family members contacted him and was like, hey, what are you doing to prepare for the next lockdown? And he was like, what are you talking about? And they had like an in-depth conversation about it. And he called me and was like, what do you think about it? And I was like, you always want to be prepared for what's going on. But until you, and this is where I'm placed in the goalpost. And I told him the same exact thing. Until I walk into Walmart and there's some asshole standing there with a compliance cloth telling me that I have to put one on, until we get back to those times, I'm going to act like it ain't even happening. It's all propaganda. I'm not worried about it. But when I walk into Walmart and I see that asshole telling me to put on a compliance cloth, that's when I'm going to start feeling some type of way about this. Until then, I'm going to let it go because it's unnecessary stress and it's a fear tactic to make you comply. You don't ever want to go back to those times. Nobody liked the way things were a couple of years ago. And because you have that feeling inside that I don't want to go back to that time, with them threatening us to go back to that time, you're inadvertently going to comply with what they ask you to do because your fear of being punished to go back to those times will control you. So don't worry about it. Until you place the goalpost somewhere and say, until this happens, I'm not going to spend all day worrying about this because it may never happen. Because it's control. They're controlling you with fear even though you don't think so. You think it's preparation. It's not. It's control. Don't let them control you until it actually affects your life. And it is more than just words being said from the podium of lies. Do not let that control happen to you. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Until it actually is affecting your life. They come in and say something at your job. Things are going to change because of this. Or school. Things are going to change because of the plague. You know, until that kind of stuff happens, until you see it in real life, don't let it affect you. It's a fear game, and it's for control. Serum, I'm going to live out my Toys R Us fantasy by going to the grocery store. You crack me up, Serum. I wouldn't be surprised if I went to Walmart right now and there wasn't no toilet paper. I wouldn't be surprised at all. People are really getting worried about it, but like I said, I've developed a plan instead of worrying about it right now. DCAT. If they shut the churches down again, there's going to be a massive riot across the whole U.S. 280 million people who are going to scream, hell no. Yeah, I think that I agree. I totally agree. I think if they shut churches down again, they're going to see a march like they've never seen before. You see what happened? They shut the churches down, and then they all came back with rainbow flags and stuff. There's a whole ton of churches. I posted a video about Minnesota where they were praying to... I want to say they were praying to God, but they were praying to God saying to accept all the shapeshifters and this, that, and the other. They were mocking God, basically. But they were inside of an actual church. We couldn't cover it during the live because it was too spicy. I can't remember if I was able to show it on YouTube or not, but I posted the whole video on Rumble, and I posted it in Gilded, and I posted it on our Telegram page too. I'm sure I put it in Discord, and I absolutely put it on jeffmaclive.com. jeffmaclive.com gets everything. But it's weird how that happened. How they all got shut down. Most of them didn't come back because they, had to file bankruptcy or whatever. They couldn't afford to keep things running. And then half of them that came back all of a sudden were rainbow worshipers. I'm sure that wasn't an accident. That didn't accidentally happen. It's just more favoritism going towards the rainbow crew. Serum, add a bidet toilet seat to your wish list. I don't think I could do that. I just don't think so. It's like those carnival games where you got the squirt gun and you're trying to hit the little bullseye and make the little thing go up, so you can win a prize. Except your back door is the bullseye. I don't think so. And I guess people who have bidets look at people who use toilet paper as like, I don't know. I don't want to say heathens, but like primitive humans and stuff. But I just don't think I could do that. I don't think I could get the squirt gun on the back door and be like, yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, I'm sure it'll wake you up in the morning, but I don't know. DeRosa, most don't know shit. Coming in a few weeks. It's true. The starfish streamer. I don't think so. I don't think I could get the starfish washed so regularly every time I use the bathroom and just be okay. I feel like it'd be chapped. And this chapstick only goes in one place. It's not there. It's not there. You're like, hold on, I gotta apply the chapstick. They're like, where are you going? This is a job for the bathroom. I got one of those new bidets. Chap the starfish. I don't know. It's I'll think about it. I'll think about it. We'll see. Let's read through the chat really quick. We're going to move on to this last video here in just a second. They keep messing with the YouTube interface. What's interesting is how the YouTube interface looks a lot like the interface we have on jeffmaclive.com. That's probably the easiest way to move over, is to go straight to the website from YouTube. Starstone, IRS funded churches are controlled. They are. It's kind of like having a school board. The school itself may want to do whatever it wants to do, but the school board tells them what they're allowed to do. So when the rainbow books come in and they land in a box on the clerk's desk there at the entrance of the school, they're told to put those books on the shelf. In a lot of cases, the schools don't even know what's in the box. They don't realize they're putting flamboyant books on the shelves. All they know is the school board told them they had to. So they did. So the schools are controlled by the school board. School board's controlled by the government. Same thing for churches. They'll get backed, because all churches, as far as I know, are tax exempt, which I can't remember what it is, like a 501c or whatever. And a lot of people say that I should do that. I should schedule as tax exempt, and maybe I should, but I don't know. I prefer to pay taxes and keep the IRS happy and not knock on my damn door. But yeah, that stuff is controlled. Anything that's getting a handout from the government is controlled, and that's what I keep telling people about Elon. Most of his money doesn't come from selling Teslas or firing rockets into the firmament. His money comes from government grants, because everything he does is considered clean energy. So he gets grant money from the government. And he smiles and says the right things and does stuff on Twitter that makes us like Elon. But in the end, I think he's controlled by the government. And I think eventually we'll see his true colors come out. So far, he seems all right. I mean, he's definitely a character of sorts, but I think in the end he's controlled by the government. I think that's why he can go to China and talk about, you know, his rockets and stuff like that, or he can go to Russia and gain information on different ways to structure his rockets, and then come back to the US and act like he didn't just go do all that and the government doesn't say anything about it. But I guarantee if it was me and you and we're going to China or we're going to Russia and we're talking about rockets and building, you know, have the ability to build weapons and all kinds of stuff. You can build a rocket, you can build a Tesla, you could build a weapon. But you know, as soon as we come back, government's knocking on the door. Hey, what the hell were you doing over there? You're over here, you know, in Russia talking about rockets and stuff. What is that for? You know, they would not let that slide with us. But he gets that government money, and I think they're hand in hand over there. Spring Church of the Hooligans. That's once we get the factions going. Once society falls, we'll have to have a Church of the Hooligans. We'll have to. It'll be necessary. Adrian, you don't trust Elon? Yeah. I don't really trust him either. I think he's really interesting, but I don't trust him. Here, Juice, you're flipping the chapstick. I know, I just sit here and flip my chapstick right in front of you guys. No shame. No shame at all. I'm just sitting here flipping my chapstick hard. Alright, we're moving on to this last video here. It's titled, AI Tool May Help Stroke Survivors Speak Again. This is interesting. I will say that it is interesting, and I do want good things for people that are going through hard times. But this whole setup is sci-fi for sure. Let's go ahead and get this started.
New AI tech may help some people speak again through a device that reads brain signals, according to a new study in the journal Nature. For those like Ann Johnson, who lost her ability to speak at 30 years old after a stroke, it's a glimmer of hope. And experts say it's the first time spoken words and facial expressions have been decoded like this.
Anything is possible.
Johnson chose this avatar, with a voice that was synthesized from a video filmed at her wedding.
I will meet you there.
The study's researchers say their work relied on Johnson, whose stroke damaged her brain stem and left her without the ability to talk or move her arms. They say their AI tool can receive and record the signals from her brain and relay them through the avatar. Kalo Littlejohn is one of the lead authors of the study from the Chang Lab at UC San Francisco and UC Berkeley.
In a nutshell, a neural recording device is placed onto the surface of Anne's brain. Those signals recorded from her brain are then sent to a pedestal screwed on top of her skull, and then to a computer where an AI model converts the neural signals into decoded text, audible speech synthesis, and avatar facial animation.
Wait for the rest of that.
And then those outputs are then displayed to both her and anyone who is watching. And this would ideally allow her to communicate using a brain-to-speech neuroprosthesis.
Johnson's current device, a letterboard, can only help her spell out letters. The researchers claim their AI system can perform 5 times faster.
The decoding system operates about 78 words per minute. So for context, natural human speech is about 150 words per minute if we're having, say, a conversation. But her current AAC, or assistive communication device, she kind of has like a letterboard that she can use and make small head movements to spell out letters, operates at about 14 words per minute.
Researchers are working to improve the machine and eventually help patients to convey their thoughts more accurately.
I think you are wonderful.
They also hope to make smaller wireless versions that are easier to use.
It was very encouraging and very exciting. For me personally, I found it to be emotional and heartwarming, just to see all of this work come to fruition and know that we actually can decode speech from the brain. And this was the very first proof of principle of intelligible speech synthesis and avatar control from someone who can't speak.
I don't know. I told you, it was real sci-fi. You know, having all the cables come out and all that stuff. They seem a little bit behind the Neuralink that Elon Musk is working on. You know, the monkeys and whatever that Elon has and have big old cables. Like I said, it looks like they have a VR headset on with all that work, and it took a team of people to run it. 4 or 5 individuals, the monitors, the computer set up behind the monitors. Definitely not convenient. Definitely not, something that's easily going to be set up and ran by just anybody. But it is interesting what's going on with technology. And like I said, at the end of the day, I would like to see people who are going through things have an easier time. An option of help. But that's some sci-fi stuff. That's got some work. They got some work to do with all of that. They need to simplify that system, and then to have it so they only have the ability to spell out words now versus actually say words. Predictive text like we have on our phones, where it's trying to guess the next word you're trying to say, would probably help in that situation. You pick the first word and then have suggestions for your next word, and whatnot. But it is interesting. It is very interesting that they're pulling it off. Kevin, can she get a Jeff Mack stream on that thing? God only knows. Imagine the propaganda they could be just plugging in. Is it like, would it be like apps on your phone? Like you go to spell a couple words, but then you got to watch a 30-second advertisement before you get to spell the next couple words? God only knows. Everything is so commercialized. I don't know. I hope the best for that person that's going through those things, but cybernetic kind of stuff going on. Ruby, it's insane. It is. Wizard's wife, I lost my ability to speak after a TBI. Cannabis was the cure. Cannabis is amazing. It is amazing when it's not being... I hate to say it's abused, because you can't kill yourself from it, but I think you can definitely hurt the quality of your life by consuming too much weed. I think if all you do is sit around and smoke weed and stuff, you're really missing out on life. It's fun every now and then, but I think if all you do is eat, sleep, smoke weed, and that's all you do, you don't do anything else, you're definitely hurting the quality of your life. But people who use it constructively, I think that it has a lot of benefits. It definitely affects your personality. I can tell the difference between having it in my system versus not having it in my system. And I don't mean like just smoking now and not tomorrow. I'm talking about going 30 days without it to see what I feel like without having any of it in my system versus having it in my system. And I see the positive and negatives of both. I'm always analyzing what's going on with my body. And I don't think I started doing that till I found out I had stomach problems when I was like 23 or something like that. That's when I started being like, okay, I'm doing this. And then later on analyzing, how do I feel? How did this affect my day? How did this affect me taking care of stuff that is a priority? Or something that has to be done versus, how did it affect social interaction and things like that. I always analyze that stuff. I can see the good and bad in both. Serum, what were you talking about? Serum, you can't ask questions like that, okay? There's like a 45-second delay between me talking and you hearing it. You can't say, what do you mean? Because I have no idea what you are referencing in that question. Was it Hito? Maybe it's Hito. Doesn't affect short-term and long-term memory. I don't know. I don't have very good memory, so I don't worry about that. I have friends that... Serum, I was high. I have friends that... people that I used to be friends with, that they don't do anything. They would rather smoke weed than take care of their kids. They'd rather smoke weed than go and get a job. They'd rather smoke weed than... fix problems in their life. That's what I mean when I say that, it's not perfect. It can help you, but that's the kind of abuse that I'm talking about, is when people do that. And it's not weed's fault, it's a person's fault. And I believe that in a lot of things. I think a lot of what people use as titles to hinder their quality of life and ask for special treatment is really things that they could just be disciplined and never have to tell anybody any kind of label and just function in life. I feel that way a lot about like ADHD. When I was growing up, I was in special ed classes from 3rd grade to the 4th trip of 12th grade that I did. Special ed for reading and writing because I'm dyslexic and all this stuff. But everybody in my class with me they were all ADHD. Bouncing off the walls, they're all on Ritalin. And it seemed like every year there was more and more kids in class that were all ADHD. And I feel like it has to do with misdiagnosis and stuff like that. But I also feel like if it's not directly debilitating to your life, like being in a wheelchair and stuff like that, if anything less than that is, I believe, is something that you can become disciplined on and go through life as a normal person, functioning in everything, without having to tell every single person you interact with, going, hey, I have this going on, here's the label, treat me accordingly, treat me like this because I have this special label. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that at all, because I don't think anybody's perfect. I don't think anybody's running through life all gears firing, like all cylinders firing off correctly. I don't think any of us are like that. I think all of us have a little bit of something. I think if you go look, you can find a title that you put over your head to go tell everybody, hey, I deserve special treatment because I got this going on. We all got shit going on. Figure out how to deal with it, then deal with it. You don't have to make it a part of your identity. And I feel like that really hinders people. And I feel the same way about people who abuse weed. It's like, you can use it and you can use it constructively and it can be a part of your life. It doesn't have to be an identity trait. But then there's people out there that abuse it and they're like, I can't do anything without smoking weed. Like, well, that's your problem. It doesn't have to be that way. You choose for it to be that way. But either way, that's just my belief. That's my opinion. Starstone, Jeff Max preaching. I know. I'm trying to reel it in. I'm not trying to piss anybody off or tell other people what they do. I'm just telling you my thoughts. Worcester's wife, I had stomach problems during the plague crap that was going on. I am fermenting veggies now. My new cure. Oh yeah, that sounds good. I definitely feel better if I eat more vegetables. Something about bread is kicking my ass. I need to stay away from bread. And I think it's oh god, I can't even think of what the word is now. Carbs kick my ass, and I need to back off of that. I need to just eat more vegetables and meat alone without bread attached to it. But yeah, vegetables, especially if you can make smoothies and stuff out of vegetables, it can really fix your digestive system and any kind of issues going on. I get a lot of inflammation. Like, the smallest things will cause my intestines to be inflamed. And I hate that. Haito. Alcohol itself can be used as in moderation to be a stress relief. The problem comes when people overuse everything in moderation. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Starstone, I'll bake for you, vegan and gluten-free. But you couldn't tell. Yeah, and I'm with all that. I don't know about, becoming a vegetarian. We've seen lots of bad things. We've covered lots of bad things on the news about becoming a vegetarian. But if I see food that is like kosher or any of that, I'm willing to try it. Because half the food that we eat is fake. Probably more than half of the food that you get from Walmart to take home and cook has been injected with all kinds of crap or just completely made out of crap. So when I see, kosher stuff like that, I'm willing to try it because at least there's a chance it'll be okay. It'll be all right. Even, I get frozen vegetables like riced cauliflower and stuff like that because it's easy to cook, it's easy to eat, goes with lots of different meals. But even that, for a while you had to be cautious buying it because you could get salmonella from eating frozen vegetables because of where it's processed. I don't know, nothing's safe. Nothing is safe. Starstone, for real, Frankenfoods, it is. It is. Our food is not what it should be. Not at all. DeRosa, gluten. Yeah, I think the gluten kicks my ass too. There's a place near here. It's not Sailor's Pizza. What is it? BC Pizza is what it's called. And their food is high gluten. I worked there for a whole day. All their food has a big, huge label that says high gluten on it. And I realized that anytime I eat there the next day, I'm like throwing up. Like, I'm just so sick. And I've come to the conclusion it's got to be gluten. It's kicking my ass. I always think of the South Park episode where they were talking about gluten. It was making their wiener fly off. It doesn't affect me like that, but I always think about that whenever gluten gets brought up. Grey Wolf, they put something in bread, and damn it, I can't remember what it is. It's probably gluten and the carbs. They're just wrecking me. Snooks, try gluten-free bread. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. What's up, Jerry? God bless you. I appreciate you being here. And add gluten, perhaps. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's the gluten that gets me. All right, let's see. We got everything. Well, hooligans, that is all the coffee I had for you guys today. My apologies for not being live Saturday. I had a bunch of stuff I had to take care of. Nothing bad, but you know, a lot throughout the week things get pushed back. I'm like, well, I have to be live at this time, and then I got to eat, and then I got to be live again, and so things get pushed back. Saturday comes around, the whole day is filled with stuff. It's like, go live, do this, go live, do this, do that, do this, go eat, do this, use the bathroom, and you know, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't even go live today. I had intentions of going live on Saturday, but by the time I got back to the house, I hadn't eaten yet, and it was already dark outside, and I was already late for the gaming live and hadn't even started Coffee with Hooligans, and I was like, there's no way I can do it today. So it didn't work out on Saturday. But it was nothing bad. There was a lot of people that thought maybe something bad had happened. Nothing bad happened. It was just, I just got overwhelmed, and that's what happened. So we didn't go live Saturday. My apologies, but we are back better than ever. Had a great live today. We will be live tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for some gaming with hooligans. We're going to be hardcore testing the live stream, make sure it's running smoothly, because on Friday, Starfield comes out. And that's the first game from Bethesda in 28 years or some crazy stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. But it's supposed to be badass, and I've already pre-purchased it. So Friday, we will be one of the few live streamers showing Starfield on early release when most other people are not even going to be able to show it. So for all the hooligans that hang out on the gaming channel, Friday will be one of the few channels showing Starfield opening day, and it's going to be exciting. I'm super excited about it. So we'll be gaming later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. For everyone else, we will be live tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time, for the next Coffee with Hooligans. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to wrap this up. Someone had suggested that we do the Pledge of Allegiance in the beginning of the show, and the only reason I haven't done that is because people are late. You know, at the beginning of the show, there's only 35 people here. But we might actually start doing that, because it would be cool to do the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the show, and then also when we have to cut YouTube off because what we have to show is too spicy, we don't get to do the Pledge of Allegiance with all the people who refuse to leave YouTube. So maybe doing it at the beginning of the show would benefit. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. But right now, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was a good one. That was a good one. I can feel it. Feel it right in my soul. That was a good one. I'm going to read through the chat really quick, and then we're going to wrap this up. Like I said, we'll be live again later today, 8 p.m. Eastern time over on Jeff Mac Gaming. If you're a part of jeffmaclive.com, or if you're on Kick, you'll also be able to watch the gaming live stream. If you would like to join us at Jeff Mac Gaming, click on the Linktree link. I'll post it in the chat in a second. You can also find it in the description if you don't want to wait for me. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the Linktree. Join up over on Jeff Mac Gaming. For everyone who doesn't care about gaming or any of that other stuff, click the Linktree link. Go join Gilded. All the hooligans hang out on Gilded 24/7, keeping the conversation going. Anytime there's breaking news, those everyone there is spreading like wildfire, debating it and all of that stuff. So it's a really good resource to be a part of Gilded. And if you don't feel like being social, which a lot of people don't, you can at least join Gilded to take advantage of the news board, to stay up to date with everything going on around the world. It's constantly updated, and also to receive notifications for when and where I go live. Every time we go live, I will notify you myself. You don't have to worry about the platform hit or miss notification system that they got going on. I will notify you directly. Go join Gilded. It's free. All right, hooligans, that is all the coffee I had for you guys today. You guys are the best, as always. I appreciate all of you. I will see half of you tonight for gaming and the rest of you tomorrow for another Coffee with Hooligans. Big shout out to everyone that made donations. Shout out Shout out. Shout out. Shout out. Shout out to shout out. Shout shout out. Shout out. Shout out. Shout out. Shout out. Shout shout out.